Theodore Roosevelt here. Watch me charge up these stairs. Did you see that lightning speed? That's how I took San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War. I was a rough rider, you know, and my boys, well, we gave the Spanish a major licking. The Spanish-American War was really all about sea power and Alfred Thayer Mahan. Mahan wrote a book called The Influence of Sea Power Upon History. I read that book, and as Undersecretary of the Navy, I knew that America could not be a true great power unless we could project our naval might into the world's oceans. The problem, of course, was we lacked coaling stations. With a new coal-fired, armored, and steam-driven Navy, it was just not possible to project naval power unless you had a couple of overseas possessions. In 1898, the Spanish were busy fighting Cuban insurrectos. The Cubans had revolted against Spanish rule, and Spain was of course fighting to put down the insurrection. America was none too keen on Spain retaining anything in the Americas. You know, it was a Monroe Doctrine thing. The Monroe Doctrine is a United States policy that was introduced on December 2nd, 1823. It stated that further efforts by European countries to colonize land or interfere with states in the Americas would be viewed by the United States of America as acts of aggression, requiring U.S. intervention. We sent the battleship Maine to visit Havana, the idea being to send a little pointed diplomatic message to the Spanish. While in Havana, the battleship Maine exploded. It sunk with a loss of life for several crew members. We all knew the Spanish had blown up the ship, so the battle cry for the war became, "Remember the Maine!" The captain of the Maine and President McKinley were not so sure that we should blame the sinking on the Spanish. Turns out that history may have proven them right. There were three options. The ship could have been sunk by the Spanish, or the insurrectos may have sunk it and tried to blame it on the Spanish. There was a final option. It might also have been an accident. Most historians now believe that an internal explosion caused by storing coal next to some powder, separated only by a small steel bulkhead, resulted in an accident. Coal can of course self-combust, and they believe the coal got hot, started smoldering, and ignited the powder. This blew up the Maine and resulted in the sinking. You know, the truth doesn't always matter though. We blamed it on the Spanish, and the president was forced to send the fleet to blockade Cuba. The blockade would have prevented the Spanish from reinforcing their troops, so they were forced to declare war on the United States. A declaration of war was exactly what I had in mind. As soon as the fleet was sent off on the blockade, I gave some additional orders to the Navy. After all, I was still Undersecretary. I had Admiral Dewey move from Japan. He was in Tokyo Harbor. We'd used a little gunboat diplomacy to force Japan to trade with us. But I digress. We moved Dewey from Japan to Hong Kong. I also sent some diplomats to the Azores to buy up the coal. The Azores are those Atlantic islands. They belong to Portugal. With war underway and the fleet dispatched, I thought I would resign and take part in the fighting. I didn't have any experience as a soldier, so I thought it might be best if I just became the executive officer of the Rough Riders. Old Leonard Wood was the first commander. I had a pistol that was salvaged from the Maine, and I joined the 1st Volunteer Rough Riders. I knew it was going to be a splendid little war, and I was not about to miss out on it. Let's charge over to the Rose Garden, and I'll give you some facts about the Spanish-American War. Charge!